Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we dive into the stories and mysteries behind everyday things. Today's question comes from one of our curious viewers, Deep Sea Debbie 99. Thanks for the suggestion, Debbie. You asked, how do submarines make oxygen? If you've ever imagined being trapped underwater in a metal tube with 100 other humans, maybe questioning your life choices while holding your breath, well, submarines actually have it figured out. Today, we're cracking open the science of how submarines keep oxygen flowing, from chemical reactions to fancy machines that basically act like underwater gardeners for humans. So, if you've ever wondered how sailors don't just suffocate and become underwater zombies, stick around as we dive into the secret ways submarines make oxygen, right here on Explaining Everything. Let's start with the obvious. Humans need oxygen. Lots of it. About 550 liters per day per person, which is basically a ton of air if you start thinking about 100 sailors all sharing the same confined space. That's a lot of breathing. The problem? Submarines can't exactly park a forest inside their hull. No hydroponic Amazon rainforest. No giant jars of houseplants to keep everyone alive. Plus, every exhale produces carbon dioxide, which is even more dangerous than running out of oxygen. Too much CO₂, and suddenly your underwater utopia turns into a panic room. So, submarines need a way to constantly replace oxygen and remove carbon dioxide. The solution is basically chemistry, clever engineering, and a touch of wizardry. The first big method submarines use to make oxygen is called electrolysis. It sounds fancy, but it's basically science's version of showing water who's boss. Here's how it works. Take water, or H2O, run electricity through it, and it splits into hydrogen and oxygen. The reaction looks like this on a molecular level. 2H2O yields 2H2 plus O2. In English, water becomes oxygen, breathable, and hydrogen, a gas you really don't want floating around unless you like surprise fireworks. Submarines then vent the hydrogen safely overboard, because apparently nobody wants the underwater version of a hot air balloon accident. Meanwhile, the oxygen gets pumped into the submarine's cabins, giving sailors life-giving air without them ever having to leave the hull. This is the main method in modern nuclear submarines, which have electricity in abundance thanks to their reactors. Think of it as high-tech underwater gardening. The plants are invisible, powered by electricity, and extremely effective at keeping humans alive. Sometimes, submarines can't or don't want to rely on electricity for electrolysis. Enter the chemical oxygen generators, sometimes called oxygen candles. These are basically metal sticks that, when ignited, undergo a chemical reaction that releases oxygen. The most common ones use sodium chlorate, NaClO3. When heated, they produce oxygen like this. 2 moles of sodium chlorate yields 2 moles of sodium chloride and 3 moles of oxygen, gas. Translation: the chemical burns, giving off pure oxygen and leaving behind a harmless residue. The reaction is hot, fast, and very reliable. Submariners love these because they're portable, don't rely on electricity, and can keep the air breathable in an emergency. They're like tiny oxygen fireworks for survival. Safety note: igniting oxygen candles isn't a hobby. These things are intense. One wrong move and it's not fireworks show anymore. It's call the emergency response team. Between electrolysis and chemical generators, submarines have a backup plan for the backup plan, ensuring oxygen is rarely in short supply, even thousands of feet underwater. Making oxygen is only half the battle. Submarines also need to get rid of the carbon dioxide that sailors exhale. If CO₂ builds up, it's lights out fast, literally. Submarines use scrubbers, which are chemical systems that remove CO₂ from the air. The most common scrubbing chemical is sodium hydroxide, or sometimes lithium hydroxide, which reacts with CO₂ to form solid compounds that are then safely stored. Think of it like a reverse soda fizz effect. Your exhaled gas bubbles out of the air and gets trapped in a chemical net, leaving breathable oxygen behind. Without these scrubbers, electrolysis and chemical generators wouldn't matter much. You'd just be adding oxygen to a room full of CO₂ soup. So basically, keeping submariners alive isn't just about producing oxygen. It's about maintaining the perfect cocktail of gases. Enough oxygen, not too much carbon dioxide, and zero panic. So, how do submarines make oxygen? They do it the high-tech way with electrolysis, splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen like science wizards. They also have chemical oxygen generators, tiny sticks that burn and give off breathable oxygen in a pinch. And let's not forget the scrubbers, which quietly remove carbon dioxide, making the air safe and breathable. Thanks to this trio of tricks, submarines can stay underwater for months at a time, letting sailors work, sleep, eat, and occasionally argue over who ate the last candy bar, without worrying about running out of air. In short, submarines make oxygen using clever chemistry, precise engineering, and a tiny bit of underwater magic. Without it, you'd be performing a dramatic holding your breath contest that lasts way too long. If you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe. Also, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our other bingeable channels. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.